communities that do have genuine dog friendliness and at varying degrees, they are safer generally than other communities. They are much healthier. They have better economic opportunities and vibrancy. They're obviously more humane. They're more welcoming, and they're more responsible. In my opinion, you cannot have a dog friendly community unless you have responsible dog owners. It's just, you have to have one to have the other.
Welcome to the Wear, Wag, Repeat podcast. I'm Tori Mystic. As a dog mom lifestyle expert, blogger, and business owner, I love talking to other women in the pet industry and sharing their advice with you every week. Sit, stay, and listen to the latest episode. In this episode, I'm talking to Beth Miller to learn about the research she does at Wagtown about dog friendliness, how to define what that even means, and how we can make our own towns more dog friendly. Beth shares her insight into the complications of working with local government and regulations. We discussed how a lot of laws surrounding pets are related to public health and safety and don't address the benefits of having dogs in the community. Now that dogs are considered a part of the family in our society, some of those regulations could use an update. Of course, dog-friendly communities are great for local pet industry businesses. It turns out that pet friendliness and innovation go hand in hand. So what can you do to make your own local community more vibrantly dog-friendly? Well, Beth has a lot of advice. So let's get into it. After you listen, please come over to the Wear, Wag, Repeat Labs Facebook group and comment on the post about this episode. I'd love to brainstorm ways to positively impact dog friendliness in our own towns. Do you live in a dog friendliness desert? There is now a resource to help you change the world one wag at a time. Beth Miller, the founder of the nonprofit Wagtown, took a giant and scary leap from a lucrative C-suite in the advertising agency business to chase a vision. She created her nonprofit to find and spread the secret sauce for dog-friendly regions. Since her jump, her organization has amassed the largest research base on dog-friendly communities. Beth uses her subject matter expertise to develop Wagtown programs, projects, change culture initiatives, and products that inspire and support animal advocates. From consulting and K-1 curriculum to Wagtown dog trails and legislative initiatives, Beth is the bridge between we want to be dog friendly to we are authentically and responsibly dog friendly. Hi, Beth.
Hello there. How are you, Tori?
I'm doing really good. I'm so excited to catch up with you and learn about all that you've been doing. We met 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 17.
Something like that. I'm very bad with years.
A while. Yeah, we won't talk about how long we've been around, right?
But you were just starting Wagtown when I met you. And since then, you have done all kinds of things. So to start off with, you've come up with this term, dog friendliness desert, which, is kind of a play on a food desert, which people are familiar with.
Yep.
So what is a dog friendliness desert?
Well, that's a great question. A lot of people over the last few years, as you know, my first year and a half was just research. So I did 500 interviews plus all over the United States. And it was really about finding out if you plop a poodle into a town, as I say, what is the ripple effect? And what does that affect in terms of access and quality and quantity of service, all those things. And what we've discovered is that it really is, there is no one definition of dog friendly. And while I hate to say that, I think that's the best possible answer, because I think that dog friendliness in your town should be different than what it is in my town, not necessarily in certain core factors, but in the way that you approach it, in the way that you celebrate it, in the way that you support that business and things like that. So you can see those things happening, but what you see, just like in a dog friendly desert being like a food desert, it comes down to that there is no social equity for it. So people want to have that dog friendly communities, but there really is a dividing factor between the decision to prioritize that and it can change the entire culture of the community. So in terms of like limited access, well, we talked about pillars that we discovered through our research. So communities that do have genuine dog friendliness and at varying degrees, they are safer generally than other communities. They are much healthier. They have better economic opportunities and vibrancy. They're obviously more humane. They're more welcoming, and they're more responsible. In my opinion, you cannot have a dog friendly community unless you have responsible dog owners. It's just, you have to have one to have the other. We just feel like that's the one thing that can bring everything crashing down, because then you start to get the pushback of, well, we would love to offer ability for dogs to come on our patios, but when they do come, people let them off leash, or they're on a flexi leash and they're all over the place, or they're allowed to stand on the table and things like that. So there's that, the ability to give access. Now, the access, just like with food deserts, is, do I have access within my reach? So is it accessible with the mode of transportation that I have? So a lot of those look within 1 mile. What I would look for in dog friendliness is it within 10 to 15 minutes from me? So then you have the issue of quantity, quality, and kinds of options for each one of those pillars. So you may have a vet, but if you live in an area that's dense enough where you require, different kinds of veterinary practice, whether it be urgent care, homeopathic care, if you want more holistic options, go the standard veterinary route, if you need a televet, all those things, living in a community like that where you have great veterinary support, that's just one component of that. So if you live in a space where you don't have access to people like the bazillion people that are making the dog space even better, which is all of the entrepreneurs that are filling up all those pet niches. And we're seeing that rise exponentially because of COVID, and just because it was already going there. The dog ownership and all of that numbers for really any pets, but dogs especially, just skyrocketing over the last decades. And our behaviors and our attitudes toward them have also changed. So we expect more out of our town. So what was dog friendly in the same town 10 years ago is completely different than the expectations now. So when I was growing up, our dog was on a chain link tied to the post of the deck. And, that was how we let her out, and she would just hang out there. And we didn't see that as being wrong. That was just what you did with dogs. And I would never do that,
Right.
But I also am not the person who, paints the toenails and wears the outfits that match my dog. So there's this huge variability in terms of how you love your dog. And I feel like, we had Rocky, who was a big Great Pyrenees. And so he wasn't as conducive to like cute outfits and things like that. But I miss it because I had with my cocker, that's just adorableness to a man with some cute stuff, right? And where I repeat with your Cocker Spaniel is just adorable. So, it just kind of depends on what your relationship is with your dog, and how much you want to celebrate your togetherness. And those, I think, are the things that are missing sometimes in communities. So I just talked with a woman yesterday. She developed a website called Pack Hire, and it allows people to find jobs or start jobs by finding niches that are open in their market. And it goes everything from a vet tech to the director of veterinary medicine at Banfield. They want to have the whole spectrum. So eventually getting to a point where you could list that you need a job. At this point, it's kind of like Indeed for the dog space. So, I love the fact that they're doing that. So that's another example of they're facilitating a better business environment for people to be successful if they decide to do what I did, which was, Geronimo off the cliff saying, and one of the things that I find interesting about that, with people being able to take that leap, is then you're saying that this is a community where we value entrepreneurialism, but we also value the safety nets that are available for businesses, in addition to the safety nets for animals. So when you talk about the outcomes for dog friendliness, like for welcoming, that applies to welcoming dogs, like off-leash areas and access to patios. And then there's access and welcoming for humans. Is if I don't have a dog, or if I'm afraid of dogs, or I have allergies, are there options in my community for me to eat places where I'm not going to encounter dogs? And, does it fit with the brand of the restaurant or the retailer? And then there's also the business and corporate. So like, for example, Google chose to build a facility in Austin. And one of the reasons that they're dog friendly. So if that's something that's going to bring, a ton of economic impact to your community, it only makes sense to prioritize that as one of the quality of life factors in the community.
So having a dog friendliness factor, which, can be different for everyone, but it can make, like you said, communities healthier, safer, more innovative, more welcoming, all of these things. Those go hand in hand, but does one have to come first? Do the dogs have to come first, or does the innovation have to come first? Because like you said, our attitudes towards dogs have changed so much in the last 20 years. And even I think in the last 5 years changed so much. But city legislature is notoriously not very adaptive and innovative and hasn't changed much in the last 5 or 10 years. So how do we balance that? What has to come first?
Well, that's a really great sticking point because of the fact that when you have all of those components coming together and you don't have a plan for it, that's, I think, where things start to go awry. So you were talking about the process of how do you get there and how do you prioritize that? I think a lot of it, to your point about legislature and ordinances and zoning for certain things, a lot of those things were in place to control the ability or to control the amount of safety issues, health issues, whether or not you have licensing, vaccinations, a lot of like nitty gritty of owning a dog. And they don't really address access or the human factor that is benefited by having the dogs in the community. And it also doesn't address what the behavior and the expectations are for when the dogs are in those places, because they haven't endorsed it and publicly said, this is how we'd like for this to be. And here's how you should behave when you're in there. So like we helped change the law in the state of Ohio. Until 2018, it was illegal to go to a patio with your pup. So that got changed. And a lot of it was, what's the health impact? What's the public health issue? And we looked all over the place, couldn't find much. The closest we could find was the state of California Public Health did a study to see if dogs were affecting public health. And they said they could find no evidence of that. So a lot of it is like, just old feelings about how we do the dog thing. And it used to be that you owned a dog, which technically you still do. But now it's more like, it's a part of my family. This is,
Yes.
if you how many people are in your family? 6, 5 humans. But I said 6 because that's one of the kids, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that recognition of doing that is really powering the demand for that shift to change. And when you don't have those things in place, that's when you start to see dog friendliness happening, what I would call by accident. So not to pick on them, but Key West was listed in our secondary research as a hotspot to check out for dog friendliness. A lot of it was based on access and celebration of dogs and things like that. But when we went down there, it was sort of like dog friendly, forcibly dog friendly, I guess, that people were like, we want to be this way. I know Key West is sort of like whatever goes, right?
Yeah,
and it's the same thing with the dogs. They have significant issues with animal welfare issues and humane treatment and investigation. So there are a lot of people down there, but they're also so far down there. They have issues with like getting dogs to the mainland and back for adoption, for instance, and competing resources. So there's not a lot of collaboration between the agencies that are trying to create a safety net and the fact that there are some logistic issues because they're so far down there. And then you have weather issues. I know we met with one shelter group that every morning they have to empty traps to get 30 to 50 rats out of their area before they can start working with the animals that day. It's just,
Wow.
It's insane. And then you go right down the road and there's this Taj Mahal, so it's the inequity in there that again sends this message of, some people can have dog friendliness and it can be great and other people you just can't. And that lack of equity across the United States is really glaring. But when you live in it, you don't even know that it's there. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I think that's the trip that people need to take is you have to define what it means for your community and then figure out, legally, like a friend of mine just called me the other day and he is what I've called a breed specific legislation refugee. So let's say that he got a job in Boulder a few years ago and they found the perfect place. He can commute easily. It fits their budget. It has all the amenities that they need. And then he finds out that if he moves to Boulder with his pit bull, they can come to his house, take the dog and put it down. So now he is looking for residency outside of the area. That's going to take him longer to commute. It's going to be an economic impact on him, which he won't be compensated for. And he can't live, you think, I'm going to live in Boulder. How awesome is that? And then you show up there and you realize that just based on face value, that they'll put an animal down without even evaluating it. Right. So, that's one of those things where you can really change people's ability to make transitions in their lives or to get up the corporate ladder or to explore new opportunities as an entrepreneur. Let's say that you wanted to be in the pet space in Boulder, like all the possibilities that are smushed down because of that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have that mindset, it's hard to also have the mindset that they deserve to be with us and taken care of better and really prioritize more in our lives as a part of our family. So that's really a big ticket, so to speak, item on what you need to do.
Right.
So we encourage people to get involved with legislation. If you have a lot of places, you can look up to see when there are dog cases in the courts, because people don't show up for those hearings. And when they don't show up for those hearings, the judge is thinking, it's just a dog. I have murders right after this case, and it really doesn't matter that much. So they usually give minimal sentences, if anything, because they've got a lot on their plate. So I get that. But when there's a group of people in the courtroom, when that verdict comes in and when they're deliberating what they want to do with that, it makes a difference, in my opinion, to have them understand that it's valued in the community. And that's what happens when you have dog friendliness come on strong for that.
Are you enjoying this interview? If you'd like to continue talking about dogs and business with the added support of a like-minded community, get on the waitlist for Wear, Wag, Repeat Society. This is my monthly membership program for women petpreneurs and pupfluencers who are looking for accountability and support to make bark-worthy breakthroughs in their business. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you're surrounded by the right people and their dogs. Join the waitlist now at wearwagrepeat.com/society. Yeah, that seems like a really easy way to just get the attention of the people who are making the laws in your city and who are signing off on things in your city, to show them that dogs matter to the community. And I think that example about Boulder, I mean, that's so specific, but just at a broader scale, places that aren't dog friendly, people base their vacations where they're going to go on how dog friendly it is and if they can stay somewhere dog friendly. And if you can't, it's likely that a dog person's not going to go there. So I think the same would apply if you're considering moving to a new city and it's not dog friendly. So cities and vacation destinations can really be missing out on a ton of people and business and everything by not welcoming
I'd love
dogs.
to know the economic impact of not being dog friendly. I mean, it's got to be significant. When we were in Park Slope in Brooklyn, 2 realtor groups told us that no one's really coming out of the gate asking first, how are the schools? The first question out of their mouths is, where can I take my dog? I mean, that's huge. Because
that's what I would ask.
Yeah, and they said if they have in Austin, if they have properties that are not dog friendly, they'll just sit. And so they've really come to that realization that, it's no longer this thing that they have to get around and, okay, we'll have it, but we're going to have all these rules and charge you more. Now they're starting to realize that pushback is big enough that I think they're eventually going to come up with better solutions. So like we just talked a few hours ago with a gal who's working with the airlines, because people are starting to schedule their flight patterns according to where their dog will have access to, pet waste areas to go to the bathroom before they get on their next plane. Is it easy for you to fly with your dog there? And, there's a whole conversation about flying with your dog, right? But the bottom line is, when you're there, do you feel like when you got off the flight and your dog has to go and you're trying to catch your next thing, do you want to go out and then have to go back through security? And then usually the dog waste areas in that area, they're like behind some HVAC unit where I would be afraid to poop, let alone a multi-poo that's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So it's a big factor. And people are definitely saying, if you don't want to welcome my dog, then you're really not welcoming me. And so I don't want to come there.
I had to fly through Charlotte with Lucy last year, and she's a big dog, so she just walks. She's not in a carrier or anything. And she didn't pee the entire day that we were traveling.
Wow.
Because she's just not comfortable peeing inside, first of all, because it's like her entire life. Don't do that. And we worked on a little bit of training before I went about peeing on like AstroTurf or something. But in the Charlotte airport, there's all these signs. Like, and I think the Charlotte airport is one of the nicest airports. I love going through there as a person. But with Lucy, I'm like following the sign for the doggy relief area. And there was like a fake fern plant and just a piece of astroturf, like in the open, in the middle of the hallway with people walking all around and everything. And I was like, this is not ideal.
Well, you know what, though? That's where I overheard the conversations of people saying, this is why I fly through Charlotte, because of that. I couldn't believe it was right in the middle of what's the hallway called in the airport, right?
Yeah.
You're walking to get to your gate.
The terminal,
and it's right in the middle of the thing.
Yes.
And the dogs are sitting there, taking a dump, and you're like, I'm just eating my bagel before I get on the plane. So, it's like, well, get over it kind of thing. But to me, it's striking to see it. Like when you said, you're like, I can't believe it. And then you go to look to see where they used to go to the bathroom, and you're like, oh, well, like, to your point, don't go inside and go potty. Well, let's give them something that sort of stimulates that and simulates the experience that they're used to, so that you don't have this thing where dogs are piddling. And, it's the same thing. If you accommodate their everyday needs and behaviors, then you don't have issues.
Right.
And it really has to be all of the categories of that. So, when they're dining out, are you packing a doggy bag with, treats and something to clean up? And if they get hurt, or do you have wipes? Do you have, appropriate collar for them? Do you have a mat that they could lay down on? All the stuff that you would take if you took your baby somewhere, you should be packing that for your dog, whether it be for flight or for dining out on the patio, just to show that you're prepared for anything that your dog needs. And you're also prepared if there's an issue with your dog involving humans or another dog. It's taking that extra step. And I think if we were all more responsible about that, and that includes, hiring people to continually enrich your dog's lives, to give them opportunities to be desensitized to things that could be scary to them, to get over maybe some PTSD that they had from peeing in the, next to an HVAC thing at an airport. So, those people, the grooming, anyone who lays a hand on a dog is formative in what kind of personality they develop and how happy and healthy they are throughout their life. So I think it definitely needs, all the way from legislation to having someone help you by walking your dog every day. All of those things contribute to staying away from being a desert, because not having access to all those services, I do see the services and the more welcoming infrastructure generally does happen in areas where there's regional vibrancy and economic prosperity. Mm-hmm. So the chicken and the egg and the dog, I'm not sure what order these came in, but I do know that in all of the areas that I've gone to where there's significantly dog-friendly vibe, they are all economically vibrant. And they all have, you can't throw a dog biscuit without hitting some kind of pet service. It's crazy. It's like being in Seattle and there's Starbucks everywhere.
Right.
Only it's groomers and walkers and behaviorists and little shops and dog hotels. And it's awesome. And when you go in there, coming from Ohio and then going to Seattle or Portland or San Diego or a lot of the stuff on the West Coast, it was, for me, being the Ohio brand of dog friendly and seeing what the Western and Pacific Northwest areas are for dog friendliness, I felt like, man, I'm totally missing out.
Yeah, we're living in the dark ages over here.
Yes, it's crazy. And of course, you're over in a very innovative
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're probably not the first innovators on that. So yeah, that's why I think people don't realize that, the attraction to relocation people, to new hires, to getting people to be less sedentary, the health ramifications physically and emotionally for that, and having fewer places to learn and enrich. I think that's when you get into that desert mentality. And you're not going to have good, responsible dog owner behavior, and you're not going to, in turn, have good, responsible dog behavior.
Yeah.
And the humane organizations will not be supported, because people will say, dogs are just a pain in my butt in this community. And they will be. They will be a pain in your butt unless we take care of them properly, because there's certainly enough of them coming into the world. If we don't have a way to take care of them and celebrate them and have them be a part of our lives, then we're just setting ourselves up for disaster and dog friendliness deserts.
Yeah. So if responsible dog ownership is, one of the keys to making something dog friendly, I don't know if it's the chicken or the egg, but it's one of those, being a good, responsible dog owner and putting your dog in situations where they're going to be comfortable and, all of that kind of stuff, and having your dog behave in a way that's not going to negatively impact anyone when you're out in public. How can the the pet business owners, like so many dog sitters and dog walkers and groomers and trainers, so many people like that listen to this show. So they're kind of the front line. They're interacting with those pet parents every day, the pet parents who think, oh, my dog is my baby. I could never, you never correct him or never, do this. And he just does whatever he wants. And how can those people kind of interface with these pet parents and communicate to them that responsible dog ownership would open so many more doors for dog friendliness?
Yeah. That's a really good thing to bring out, because the only thing more difficult to define than dog friendliness is responsible dog ownership. So yeah, it's tough. And I think part of the problem is, like, if you take a look at, like, let's say, like the skincare line. So the general gist there when they're marketing those things to you is that there are an array of options. Some are good for your skin and some are not for other people's skin. If you have dry skin, if you have T-zone, whatever, all of those things, what age you are, all those things, they're factors. And so you choose to amend your regimen according to what your needs are that match up with what you can afford and what makes sense for you to have in your beauty regimen. I think the same thing applies to when you're with a dog. There are a lot of different options to care for and stimulate and take care of your dog. The key is helping people understand, because everybody thinks their dog is well trained and everybody thinks they're responsible in general. So I guess maybe if you can just obfuscate some things that are clearly not responsible. But I think we do a little too much tearing each other down by saying, well, if you don't use a clicker, you must be a bad dog owner. If you're not, a lot of that kind of thinking. I've always been one of those people that's absolutely no people food ever for a dog was always my thing. And now it's the total opposite. Kibble is evil and everything should be, raw diet. And so,
right.
But somewhere in the middle of there is kind of where we live. And if we want to push it toward, better care, better services, all of those things that really make a dog's life more full, also turn into the reaction and the behavior of the dog in the home and the dog in the community. So they really contribute to creating the dog vibe, so to speak, and how dogs behave in that community. If you have more dogs that are socialized and walked and well-groomed, grooming is a huge part of health. So people realizing that it's not just about having a cute haircut. It's about having hands on your dog and identifying, issues ahead of time. And, it's just a really important part of it, not to mention all the things that can happen when they're not groomed well or frequently.
Right.
So all the way down into, up into the legislation. So finding your groove in those and knowing that you're part of something bigger, because dog friendliness is like this train that doesn't have any brakes. And it's just going and going and going and going and going. We're talking about $100 billion worth of, materials coming through the pet space. And I think the big game changer there is the young entrepreneur, not young in the sense of, I guess I'll say new entrepreneur in the space. There are so many examples to see in other communities and examples to see online that I think people can really fine tune what the best practices are for that particular job selection. But also they need to take a look at their community and say, where are there some pain points? And that's obviously a great business decision too, because if I'm going to find an open niche, well, that's where I'm going to start my business. And you're definitely going to find them in there. If you look at places, I know Seattle and Portland, I think Portland, just in their downtown area, they have 13 dog parks just downtown.
Wow.
Now, they're not great because a lot of them are just chicken wire with posts, but people live down there and they need it for lunch hour or just a break. And so they're everywhere. So you can jump down, do that and get back to the office. Their culture is built up that way. So you have big dogs, little dogs, all kinds, because they know they have immediate access to areas like off-leash areas and areas to go to the bathroom and socialization with other people. So, you need to look for those ways where the users and the non-users aren't in conflict, and then find pain points where you could say, okay, I could improve the dogs' lives on this side. And it would also facilitate an opportunity to have a conversation about new ideas and responsible dog ownership. Because I think when you come at somebody and say, you're not a responsible dog owner, I think it's better to say, there are some new thinking in responsible dog friendliness. Did you know that now this is no longer considered to be responsible? And it's understandable that it changes, because just like in Ohio, it was irresponsible to take your dog on a patio because it was illegal. So therefore, you're sending this message that I'm going to do whatever I want with my dog, whether it's legal or not. I think that's just as bad as saying the legal things won't let me do things with my dog. It's a no-win for both parties. So I think the role of people who are really supporting the industry on the man on the street and in the weeds and in the trenches kind of groups, those are now also safety nets. It's not just the Humane Society and SIXA and other places like that. They supply that thing of like, let's help you keep your dog where you are. They're supplying okay, if you can keep your dog where they are, the key to that is good training. The key to that is, the enrichment. All of those things lend to an environment where people will be attracted to bringing new hires and to people relocating there. It's like, what's my dog's life going to be like when I'm here? If you don't like how your dog is going to be treated, have businesses there where you can cheerlead for your community and say, we just put in 2 new dog parks and this one's a smart one made by Wagtown and it's so cool, stuff like that. Or we're putting in a Wagtown dog trail, or we developed K1 curriculum to keep kids safe around dogs. So looking for little tools like that, and, feel free to contact me, just beth@wagtown.org or go to wagtown.org and just reach out to me. We'll do a quick assessment conversation with you if you'd like, because it definitely is a sliding scale as far as what's acceptable, what's not, what's expected and what's not. And sometimes it does take a fresh set of eyes. When I go to these cities and these states, I have not been there. I have not worked with these people. And like I said, I'm talking to everybody from the economic development office to the person who's installing dog public art. And so the broad spectrum of that certainly allows for a lot of business niches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it sounds like what it comes down to, which I just think is so wonderful about the dog industry, is like we're all in this together. And, we need to support each other, and, the dog walker and the groomer and the vet and the artist putting something creative on the dog walking trail, it all ties together. And if we support each other, it can change your entire town.
Yes, it definitely could. I've seen it happen, both good and both bad. And it can take something as simple as I've seen in Nashville, they had a new director at their animal resource center, and it completely changed the vibe of the community, how they manage at risk, how they communicate with people in terms of giving them better information, showing them what their options are, and making them not afraid of finding out more about their dog. Because there is somewhat a vibe in many communities of, I'm not going to ask that question because I don't want to be looked at as a bad dog owner, dog parent. And I think the message needs to be clear that we are being responsible, that we are respecting the boundaries that are set up right now, but we're also challenging the status quo and doing it in a way that's it's positive and it's thoughtful. So, I mean, the reason that I spent a year and a half just doing research was that I wanted to really understand all of the little things that you don't think of when you start doing a process like this. Some of it is the ramifications that can be a problem, but there are huge upsides to it. And one of the challenges for dog friendliness is having a big enough voice at the table. Mm-hmm. When you talk about quality of life initiatives, a lot of times you'll see, military bases, hospital systems, big education systems, they're the ones at the table making the big regional planning decisions. They, generally speaking, will not include, for instance, park and rec agencies or other sort of soft product items to be in there. But they're the first ones to call you and say, can you send me materials or photos, or, because they want to be seen that way, but they don't necessarily want to do the work. And part of that is they're overwhelmed, especially now.
Yeah.
And so it really does take just a person who loves dogs that says, I'm going to champion this in my community. And then, reach out to somebody like us. Well, there is nobody like us. So reach out. And, that's what I love to do, is to help people identify the pain points. And whether it be, a new business that they start or going after legislative changes, whatever the case may be, it really does happen, well, one wag at a time.
I love it. Well, Beth, we could continue talking for the rest of the day. And I think if anyone wants to keep talking with us, they can find you on Clubhouse certain days.
Yes.
Yep. But tell everyone who's listening, what's your website? Where can they find you and learn more about? Obviously, you do more than we could ever cover on this podcast. So
right. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Just I'd love if you could share your website and everyone could find you.
Sure. Yeah. We have tons of information. We're in the process of swinging over the website. Initially, it was all about research, but now the nice thing about it is it's proof of concept stuff. So all the projects that we've been working on, a lot of those are highlighted in there, so people can kind of see what we're up to, how we're supporting dog friendliness in different communities and legislature, all those kinds of things. But also opportunities to, get information, to download informational PDFs. If you're a Facebook person, we're at facebook.com/wagtown.org. Now on there at noon every Wednesday, EST, then I go live and talk with someone who is making a difference in their community with dog friendly initiatives, whether it be new product enhancements that, help the lives of dogs be better, to other things involving all kinds of entrepreneurial combinations with philanthropy. So those are in there. Obviously, we're in Clubhouse too. I'm in there as at Wagtown. So we repeat that same content in the Clubhouse because the shtick is a little different in there. It's a little different feel. So they have that. And then just, really encourage anyone who really is interested in, getting started or finding out how to get started, or at least take that first step. Please feel free to reach out to me. Like I said, it's just beth@wagtown.org, or just if you want to look through the website and then just go to the contact thing, it'll shoot me there. And just tell me what you're interested in. Tell me what you need help with. I just have so much information that I've garnered over the last few years. And the whole point of this is to change the world through dogs. And I really think it's possible. We're already seeing it. And I'm excited that it's in partnership with a lot of the people that you're in collaboration with, as far as adding to that quality of life in a way that also helps people, maintain a good standard of living, knowing that they're doing something that they're really passionate about. So big applause to your listeners. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. You can probably hear Lucy in the background. She's ready to go be the center of attention.
Absolutely. She is.
So I have to go answer to my boss, Lucy. But thank you for your time today and for sharing all the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you for asking to our conversation. It's always good to catch up with you. And I love what you're doing. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much. What did you like most about this episode? Find me on Instagram @TMystic and let me know what intrigued you or what questions you have about starting or growing your own dog-inspired business. You can also screenshot this episode and tag me in your stories. I love to see who is listening out there. Some of the best conversations happen after the episode, right? So track me down over on Instagram or join the Wear, Wag, Repeat Labs Facebook group to connect with other dog-obsessed entrepreneurs. And as always, you can find all the links and resources discussed in this episode at wearwagrepeat.com/podcast. See you back here next week.